it's not just in Clemson this weekend with their matchup with the Georgia Bulldogs, but also for the ACC, you've got a matchup between Miami and Alabama. You got a matchup between Louisville and Ole Miss. So just a lot of great ball games out there on the docket. And this past weekend, a little taste of college football for you. Brett, welcome back in, man. Appreciate you being a part of the program.
Yeah, Lawton, thanks for having me. It's game week. It's about time, right?
Oh, man, I tell you what, and I said earlier, and I'll see if you feel this way, like last week felt like the appetizer, and it was a pretty decent appetizer, I thought, because Illinois got the job done. Brett Bielema, 1-0 in his tenure there, but how big of a loss was that for Scott Frost? Just a punch in the gut for Nebraska fans.
Yeah, it's a monumental loss right there because not just losing to Illinois, who was picked unanimously in last place in the Big Ten West, but more so just the idea that this is year 4 for Scott Frost and year 4 for quarterback Adrian Martinez as a starter. And you thought that by now a lot of these mistakes would be taken care of. It did not look like a fourth-year coach team. The way they caught a punt at their goal line and had a safety called from that, not just 1 but 2 extra points missed. A fumble where Adrian Martinez was barely touched, and that was returned for a touchdown. Just so many bonehead plays, and that's really plagued them the first 3 years, and here it is in year 4 again. So at this point, I don't know what would change, and you saw really an outclassing in the coaching department by a first-year Brett Bielema, and his team played pretty clean football.
Yeah, I tell you, that was the appetizer, and then the other game too. I thought UCLA. I thought UCLA was pretty impressive, and it seems like this is going to be a key year for them, and really maybe more so a key year just for the Pac-12 in general. But what were your takeaways from the Bruins game?
Yeah, they kind of came as advertised. I had them 27th in my preseason poll in my book, just right there outside the top 25 barely, and they looked like it. So they played a complete game on both sides of the ball. I know it was an inferior opponent, but the mark of a top 25 team is handling those kinds of teams, not letting them stay around or go into the fourth quarter close. I mean, UCLA took care of that really early on, and it allowed the backup Ethan Garbers to get a lot of playing time too, the backup quarterback who transferred down from Washington. So, very valuable kickoff for them. They look as advertised, like I said, and I don't think many people are taking note. Really, they're a solid team. Really, just Vegas, because when you look at the Vegas line, it's they're only underdogs by a field goal against LSU. The top 15 powerhouse there. So that's going to be a heck of a game. And really, I mean, it's a very crowded weekend. I'm calling it the greatest opening weekend ever because,
wow.
When you really break it down, because not only do you have a top 5 matchup, which you guys are all getting fired up for, Clemson, Georgia, you have the Big Ten bringing their conference matchups and big ones into the first week with Indiana versus Iowa, a ranked game. Penn State, Wisconsin's ranked. And then in total, you have 5 ranked versus ranked matchups. So then the fact that it's spread out over 5 days, you got Thursday night, Friday, all day Saturday, and then a couple of night games Sunday, Monday. So it's an incredible kickoff and well-deserved after a long offseason.
Yeah, and that was going to be my question to you, just not necessarily in terms of the Power 5, Brett, but, you get football on Wednesday as well with Jacksonville State and UAB. And, I mean, just that extended run of games with a Sunday night matchup between Notre Dame and Florida State, then Monday's Louisville and Ole Miss, the length of time to consume this, it's like a buffet, man. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend, and I know you'll be hunkered down getting ready to watch these games, but boy, it feels like a busy 5-6 days.
Yeah, and also when you look at Thursday night and Friday night, it's not just one game, it's double headers. I know that UNC versus Virginia Tech kicks off at 6 on Friday, and there's a game right after it at 9 Friday night. And I think the same is true on Thursday, where there's like 15 games to choose from. So, it's just I just can't wait, especially after, like I said, 2020 with no non-conference, so you get that back. But just in general, of having everyone back on time and stadiums and tailgates, and it'll really feel like we're back, I hope. And hopefully everything's as safe as expected. But I think it's going to be a really special weekend for the sport.
Of course, Brett Ciancia's website, pick6previews.com. He does a tremendous job. Take a look at his Twitter account as well, at pick6previews. So let's talk about the Thursday night matchup between number 4 Ohio State and Minnesota, because I think most people believe that Ohio State is a team that's going to compete for the college football playoff. I don't disagree with that at all. But an opening game, you watch enough of these matchups to know, man, strange things happen. You put the ball on the ground, you have inexplicable. I mean, you kind of mentioned some of the stuff that happened in that Nebraska game, just weird things that take place. To me, at Minnesota on the road in an opener is probably a little more testy than some people might think for the Buckeyes. Or am I just wrong on that?
Well, no, I think it's a common theme right now. I actually side the other way. I think that they'll cover the 2-touchdown spread, the 14 points. A couple things here. Minnesota on the road is a lot different on a hot track in August than it is in the cold snow in November. So that really hurts their home field advantage playing this on a dry surface like this. Ohio State running up and down. But then also, I think it's unfair to compare them to Nebraska, and it's just such a better coached team and program at Ohio State. You're not going to see the kind of shenanigans you saw from Nebraska last Saturday. I think that with the number one the number one running back in the country, Travion Henderson, multiple number one receivers, and then 4 or 5-star quarterbacks to choose from. It might be younger and inexperienced, but the talent level is incredible. So, and specifically matchup-wise, Minnesota's defense looks like the uncertainty. So that plays right into Ohio State going through a quarterback and an offensive change. So Minnesota's real strength is their offensive line, but that pairs a good matchup for Ohio State's defensive front, which I think has a couple All-American caliber guys in Haskell Garrett and Zach Harrison. So it kind of neutralizes Minnesota's strengths, and I think Ohio State rolls with them.
Friday night, the big matchup in the ACC will be North Carolina at Virginia Tech, and a lot of people would classify this year for Justin Fuente as sort of a must-win or leave the year on a positive impact. I mean, where do you see that Virginia Tech program right now under Coach Fuente? And, how important is it for them to not only look competitive against North Carolina, but to maybe make this a game on ESPN, a national network where everybody's going to be tuning in and seeing you very early on in the season?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you remember this time last year, it was kind of a consensus opinion. Everybody was saying how there won't be any firings or coaching carousel this year because of the athletic funds and the lack of revenue. We're going to hold on to everybody and give a mulligan year. Well, it turns out it was the Wild Wild West as always. But the one place where that held true was Blacksburg, where for whatever reason they retained Justin Fuente. It certainly wasn't for on-the-field reasons. It was Virginia Tech's first losing season in like 20 years and snapped their NCAA long bowl streak at 22 years. So, so it was poor on the field. They've lost now to all 3 Virginia FBS teams now the last 3 years. UVA, obviously, but then Liberty and Old Dominion, a couple upstart programs. So this is a bad look. So it's a huge test this year. I think that they're going to be improved on defense. Now they're in their second year under coordinator Justin Hamilton. A lot less crazy stuff that happened last year with opt-outs and quarantines and transfers. It's more of a cohesive unit this year. So I think they'll give UNC a test, and that's a tough opener for Mac Brown's squad too. A couple uncertainties with this game, so it'll be must-see TV there, Lane Stadium.
Now, one of the other things on moving forward in the weekend on Saturday that I think will interest Clemson is the news that came out yesterday that former Clemson running back Chez Mellusi is going to be the starter for Wisconsin. And for Clemson Tiger fans who maybe aren't keeping score at home, I mean, this is a top 15 Wisconsin ball club. And, Clemson sort of, I don't want to say they have question marks at running back, but there's still sort of this, hey, who's going to be the guy who's going to replace Travis Etienne? That's a big matchup for Wisconsin. They'll take on Penn State, or they'll host Penn State, I should say, on Fox at noon. But Chez Mellusi, the former Tiger, will be the starter at running back for the Wisconsin Badgers. Man, what an interesting way to start the Saturday morning slate for Tiger fans.
Yeah, that's a huge opener. I mean, like I said, normally with the Big Ten, those games come in November, but that's a colossal matchup right out of the gate. And to speak to that, Chez Mellusi news, that's pretty big. Sometimes when you look at the transfer portal, it can say a lot about the program that they leave behind and the depth chart they leave behind, because if he's able to start at Wisconsin, just come in there and take over running back U, as it's known, what does that say about the stuff that, the competition that he left at Clemson? That means there's some absolute incredible talent,
Right.
To be, I don't want to say scared away, but, to go somewhere else in the transfer portal. That means that those two guys in-house are incredible with Dixon and Will Shipley. I know that Shipley's a true freshman, but I checked out his high school tape. I mean, he's untouched the first 7 plays. It's incredible. So, I think that they're going to be fine there. And congrats to Malusi finding a place to start. You want everyone to get what they want out of the college experience. So I think Tigers will be cheering them on.
Kind of a weird question for you, Britt, but the Tulane Oklahoma game had to shift venues because of the hurricane that came through just a few days ago, and that's no surprise to anybody. But I mean, how hard is that in your mind for like the kids at Tulane and other programs like LSU that have sort of had to vacate that area? I mean, just as a guy that follows the sport the way you do, I mean, how significant is that? Or do you feel like these young men are pretty flexible and can get through those kind of things without really any hiccups?
Well, yeah, I think if you'd asked me that 2 years ago, I'd have said it's unheard of and it's crazy. I mean, I think the 2020 showed how resilient these players and coaches and staffs and programs are, the way that they had to switch opponents on the drop of a dime. At least the California schools, for example, I think it was Stanford and Cal, they had to leave their area to practice. They had to practice up in the state of Washington for a couple of weeks. So anyway, I think that these programs through the last year and a half have really shown flexibility and resilience and able to grind down and get it done. This cancellation in New Orleans was a good reminder that things are bigger than football. We get so caught up in everything. I saw tweets about, oh no, there goes Oklahoma's win total, my prop bets. It's like, all right, let's take a step back, as things more important, and hopefully they're all doing okay there. But hopefully they get a way to play the game in, and everyone's safe back home too. So we'll see what happens there.
Again, pick6previews.com is his website, a fantastic preseason magazine. Still, you could go right now, get your hands on it, lock in, have it on your mobile device, man. Nothing beats it. Again, he's on Twitter at pick6previews as well. Brett Ciancia with us here on Clemson Sports Talk, and we try to make him a weekly guest during the college football season when he can squeeze us in. All right, final thing for you, Brett, because I know you got to get out of here at about 5:15. I want to ask you about Alabama and Miami, and I know we've touched on this, but as we get closer and closer to kickoff of this game, I mean, like Clemson, like Ohio State, Alabama's got a new quarterback, and you just never know. What does this game look like, in your opinion, when it's all said and done Saturday evening?
Yeah, well, I know it makes for probably a boring radio answer, but I really like Alabama to roll them. And that's more a testament to Miami, because I think that they had their window of opportunity last year. Their defensive pass rush was incredible with those three guys, Quincy Roche, Greg Rousseau, and Jalen Phillips, all high NFL draft picks there. All three of them are gone. Going through a defensive coordinator change hurts. The year-to-year, consistency. The receivers had the number one drop rate in the country last year. De'Ara King is a little banged up coming off that injury. And then the worst news I heard was Zion Nelson, their All-American caliber guard or offensive lineman, is now out for the game, or at least is rumored to be out. So you lose him against a fierce Alabama front seven, it's going to be tough. So I think Alabama, despite the youth and the new starters, I think they roll. Think of Saban. He had 9 months to prep for this game. So I like him to win this one big.
So what I hear, not keeping it close.
No, I think they cover that 18 or 18 and a half. So,
wow.
Especially, always take Alabama first half lines. That's kind of the trend, and the numbers back it up too. They come out of the gate fierce. So, if you're on the betting side of that, go first half.
Always appreciate you, man. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy week one. Good luck.
All right, Brett Ciancia, Pick Six preview. So he says the Tide are going to roll. Ooh, man, that's not the news you want to hear. Not